Hello there. Welcome back to Marcelian&Flame, and are you decking your halls with boughs of holly? Because if not, you might as well just have fun with some ranged DPS in WoW. How I would rank the most fun ranged DPS in the War Within in the first season, because it's almost, well, it's not almost over, we still have a couple of months, but I have played through the hero talents, tier sets, and the redesigns, sometimes reworks, sometimes not enough reworks that we would need through these ranged DPS specs. So let's see how they hold up. And we're gonna start it really quick with Affliction Warlock, something that has been pulling away some heads, but it's just not getting the juice. Now, of course, when we talk about fun, it's not just about putting out the damage, but that is important because at the end of the day, you're not playing a healer, of course. You're not just putting health stones and then just AFKing in the middle of the dungeon or the raid fight. But overall, Affliction is not bad. I am enjoying Affliction. I would hope it would be a little bit more. I don't particularly enjoy Malefic Rapture spam, so it's going to be around B tier-ish. I can only hope that maybe one day we'll get back seed spam, because its explosive goodness cannot be matched by the current Malefic Rapture playstyle. However, it is functionally better in terms of design, in terms of the hero talents. With the hero talents, actually, they're doing quite a bit of heavy lifting into carrying the spec into a better one in the future. Also, there is more than one way to have fun as a ranged DPS, and that's definitely by shooting glorious rounds of historical goodness with today's sponsor, War Thunder. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, now available for free on PC, consoles, and mobile devices. You can be at the helm of more than 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships, all belonging to 10 major nations. You can command vehicles like biplanes and armored cars from the 1920s all the way to the modern fighter jets and main battle tanks. The combat of the game is incredibly immersive, all made possible with the detailed vehicles, realistic graphics, and authentic sound effects, helping you suspend that disbelief while commanding the most powerful war machines of modern times. The community worldwide is massive, with over 70 million players duking it out in epic PvP battles, and with the ridiculous amount of vehicles at your disposal, the content of the game will keep you engaged all throughout the holidays, especially if you're a fan of military history. As fans of MOGs in WoW, I can definitely get behind the depth of the customization system in the game, ranging from camouflages, historical markings, and even decorations for all types of vehicles, some of them made by the community, by the way. And as a WoW player, you will appreciate the fact that the game is heavily optimized to deliver a lag-free experience, high FPS for those immersive visuals, even on lower-end devices, all because of their in-house developed Dagor engine. Once again, the game is free and playable on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile, and you can support our channel and this video by using our links to download the game down below in the description. If you are a new or returning player that hasn't played in the last 6 months, you will also get a bonus pack of goodies across PC and consoles, which includes multiple premium vehicles, but also the Eagle of Valor Decorator, 100,000 of the currency Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium account for a limited time only. And now let's take a look at Balanced Druid, a controversial spec for me at this point in time, because I am naturally a fan of Balanced Druid, the way the rotation plays, the fantasy of the spec, and all of that. I just cannot get behind the most recent design of the spec. The hero talents are kind of making the spec a little bit more interesting, with a slight death, not having to cast like Solar Wrath or essentially get into Solar Eclipse with the Elune's Chosen. It's interesting. It's a neat little spin, I can say. Having trees is not entirely that bad as I thought it would be, but at the end of the day, I still feel like it's a much simpler and less engaging spec than before, because we just lost a bunch of tools. I don't know. I would probably put it in front of Affliction. I wish I could put it higher. I want to put it higher, but I'm still hoping that the 11.1 patch will bring some much needed Druid rework love on the Druid class, but also for specs like Balance. Augmentation is a hit and miss for me. I love the concept of the spec. The playstyle is fun and engaging. It's not one that would click with me 100% of the time. Most of it because I understand that I'm a Black Dragon, or at least part of my kit is from the Black Dragons. I'm I want to be a tank. But listen, that's not the point. The point is how fun it is. Scale Commander and I think it's Chrono Warden, they do a pretty good job at making augmentation feel pretty nice, pretty neat. I feel like it's the situation of the old Havoc Demon Hunter where it just came off of Legion and still doesn't have the full depth that a modern class in WoW would have. I still feel like to probably complete this class, we would have to have the hero talents baked into the baseline of the kit and then have another layer of hero talents on top of it. I'm not going to put it too low. I am going to put it around C or B. I'm going to put it into B tier, okay? I'm going to give it the benefit of a doubt. I'm enjoying it, but I feel like there's still something missing despite the aesthetics, which goes a long way into me considering the spec being fun or not. Arcane Mage, probably unsurprising to a lot of people, is an S tier fun range DPS spec. I have been converted successfully to a mage player this expansion, and Arcane is definitely one of them. It has some of the most crazy interactions, I want to say. I know not everybody vibes with the procs of Arcane Orbs, but that's probably because they really want to optimize the Arcane Orbs. But listen, you don't have to optimize the Arcane Orbs that just proc out of yourself, because you can just have like crazy stupid fun, or you can just play Sun Fury again. To be fair, Mage in general, Arcane is probably the prime example of this, has some of the most interesting hero talents, and they're just so off balance with each other that you kind of really only play one at a time. It would be really great if we could see like the Sun Fury and Spellslinger be a little bit more balanced, so you can, you know, opt between the two and kind of, you know, don't play Spellslinger if you don't like the RNG Arcane Orbs procs, and you can just go into the Sun Fury where you're just, you know, shooting the big orbs and a lot of the barrages as well. I mean, you can still do it if you don't really push high-end content. It's still gonna be fine, and you're gonna have a lot of fun because it is fun. Beast Mastery has taken a dip for me in the last couple of years. I feel like they are doing some good things to it, and probably maybe Dark Ranger. Okay, so if I would have to put Dark Ranger here, I would probably put BM here, maybe in front of Augmentation. Should I just rank it based on Dark Ranger? Maybe. I'm not a big fan of Leader of the Pack. It doesn't really feel like Leader of the Pack. With Survival, it feels a little bit better, but with BM, I don't feel it. It's not telling me I'm the leader of the pack. I feel like BM is every year gets closer and closer to needing a proper rework in the sense of the visuals and how the pet interacts with your kit, because I just feel like pets are just dots. They don't really feel like they're physical beings inside a digital game, if that can even be a thing. But it's probably not going to be higher. I wish it would be higher. Normally, I really like the fantasy of BM Hunter. It would be at least 8 tier, but the playstyle is slightly better and improved, but that's slightly better and improved on a pretty basic and bland playstyle, to be fair. Demonology is... I'm going to have a lot of B tier, aren't I? I cannot put it behind Augmentation as much as I would like to. They are doing some pretty good job with Demonology, as much to my dismay that I've lost my Nether Portal and I'm still a little bit salty. I think I have to just get over it and just enjoy the modern version of Demonology. The DPS output is still a little bit behind a lot of the other range specs, and it feels a little bit lackluster considering that you have some pretty neat expression in terms of your spec fantasy in your talent tree, when you can go, I don't know, heavy into Doom Guards or into Dogs or the Charhound, Core Hounds, Vile Fiend upgrades that you now have as new talents and new capstones. You can even go heavy into your Felguard. I hope that they keep iterating on this so that you can actually have distinct playstyles within the spec. That would probably bump it very close to S tier for me, but now it feels kind of samey in a way, because similar to BM Hunter, it kind of feels like the demons are a little bit cosmetic and a little bit dots. I think this is probably a more generic problem with modern pet classes in World of Warcraft in a modern gaming sense. I'm not sure if BM and Demo are like the only ones that have this issue. Likely all pet classes will probably be the same, but Demonology, although it has cool demons, at least the Doom Guard is there and then just shooting shit right next to you and you can actually see it. And actually, because of that, I'll probably put it in front of... I'll put it in front of Affliction. I feel like even with the hero talents, it's doing a little bit better. Now, Destruction. I have had a surprisingly high amount of fun with it, and because I just enjoyed the simplicity of infinite scaling AoE. I wish we could live in a world where we can put this into practice more consistently. Like, as I said before, I don't want every dungeon to be like 5 to 10 packs pull every time that we go in. That would probably get a little bit boring. But when you can actually pull, I don't know, 10, 20 mobs at once, Destruction just feels so good. The constant generation of soul shard is so fun when you get those rains of fire upon rains of fire, and you get that overfiend proc. I think the name of it is overfiend, and then it just shoots the chaos bolts all over the place. And now on the single target, it's even better. I would put it into A tier. It's close to being an S tier spec, and I kind of really miss playing a lot more Warlock, and I think Destruction is going to be the only one that's gonna get me into it if I end up playing it more than I already am. Fire Mage, holy shit, dude. Frost Fire, I would normally probably put Fire behind Arcane, but Frost Fire has convinced me that it's probably one of the most complex specs to play efficiently in the game. It's not complicated to understand, but it has so many things you have to kind of juggle, and it's in such a specific manner, and you have a set of globals that you always have to push in a certain priority, and if you miss one, you dip a lot of that. It's very punishing, okay? But for me, that's what it's actually entertaining about it, because the playstyle itself, it's simple. You want to generate your hot streaks, you want to shoot out those instant power blasts and get as many combustions up as possible. The way you get there, especially with Frostfire, and if you use your meteors, is always different. It always changes. It's very hard. So as opposed to Balance that has a very predictable rotation, and pretty much you kind of know all of the spells you press most likely in an order, with Fire Mage it can change. Like, no 10 seconds of combat and Fire Mage is going to be the same as any other 10 seconds. And I do have to admit that if you have a spell like Meteor, especially for Frostfire, it has to do a lot of damage, and it definitely feels like it does a lot of damage even in single target. And if they nerf this in any way, which I don't think you should, Fire Mage is still pretty low tuned, it would lose a lot of its value. And this is just to point out that sometimes damage is indeed important to get your point across, let's say. Frost Mage is, let's put it in top of the beats here, or it could be bottom 8 here. I'm not decided. We'll see how we go for the last couple of specs here. I mean, I like it because it's a mage spec, and in AoE it's pretty fun. I've said that before. I think Cold Snap is pretty much the only thing that's fun about Frost Mage, and it is pretty fun to you know, shoot your orbs, blizzards, and Comet Storm, and then boom, Cone of Cold, and do that all over again. And similar to Destro Warlock, maybe I can put it a little bit higher. Similar to Destro Warlock, if you fight big AoE fights of at least 8 mobs per pack, you get very, very quick resets of Frozen Orb. This is probably why Frost Mage is the spec that you push the highest of keys with, because it has a very good damage, consistent damage profile, high damage uptime, and it's probably the tankiest mage spec also, and that feels really good in this world of everything just kills you if you blink twice. It feels nice to be a little bit tankier, so I cannot lie. So I think maybe I'll put it bottom 8 here. I don't think I can put it at the same tier as Balance and the rest. It is still pretty fun. It gets a little bit more boring. I don't think it can hold a candle to the other two mage specs, but for now, bottom 8 tier is fine. Marksmanship hasn't really changed, and if I've seen Marksmanship play Dark Ranger, and I think that's kind of like the only saving grace that it has. Sentinel is kind of like whatever. I'm not sure you would want to game the Lunar Storm, the little owl thing, which would be maybe one of the more interesting things that you would do as a Marksmanship in Sentinel, to kind of make sure that you spawn it on top of as many people as possible, or at the boss as possible. But since it kind of always happens every 15 seconds, you don't really have that much control over it unless you hold it, which is not something that you want to do. And as far as Dark Ranger is concerned, I really hope that it would feel a little bit more impactful for Marksmanship. It does feel really great for BM. Maybe, I don't know, it's not that bad. It's still the same shit though. I feel like Marksmanship just needs a rework. Its capstones are boring. True Shot is boring as the only real cooldown that you have. Even BM has triple the amount of cooldown. Well, I guess you have Volley, True Shot. You used to have Double Tap. That's gone. Salvo is kind of like the same cooldown with Volley. So really, it's just, you just don't have much. I feel like Marksmanship is one of those specs that is living in 2010, and it just needs to come back up to the modern times with all the other specs. Devastation is around the same level as Augmentation for me. Overall, Evoker, in terms of gameplay, is a really fun class to play, and it's very mobile. It can get a little bit annoying with the short range. You do feel that the combat design isn't actually accounting for the fact that you can only shoot some of the more important spells at a shorter range than the other specs, and that becomes visible at times and feels a little bit shitty. And I do feel like Devastation kind of needs a little bit more tuning when it comes to its overall performance. It has been 100% overshadowed by Augmentation ever since Augmentation's release, because they're both DPS specs, and Augmentation just does that and pretty much everything else that you would want from a party member, and that's a little bit of a shame when it comes to Devastation. I feel like Devastation should just have like killer DPS, but I feel like this is a design conflict with Evoker. It kind of doesn't know exactly where they want to go with Augmentation and Devastation. Unless that changes in the next couple of patches, it's likely always going to be the same, and that's just a shame. Elemental. Baby. Now, I don't know if I would put Elemental in front of any of the mage specs. It might. I just didn't play that much, but when I played it, fuck, dude. I don't know what's going on with Elemental, but Shaman is nailing it in this expansion, man. They're doing really well, and the new Ascendance design is fucking incredible. I do feel like they might want to spread out the performance of Elemental where you can do more varied builds. I know you have a couple of builds, but I feel like all Elementals are playing just Stormbringer everywhere. I'm not saying that Farseer is particularly interesting, but the fact that you have a lightning style of Elemental and a fire style is what actually puts Elemental so far up, and what's putting Enhancement as one of the most fun and best DPS specs in the game. I feel like Elemental's maybe relying a little bit too heavily on Stormbringer, but outside of that, fuck, man. This is the Elemental. Isn't this the Elemental Shaman you ever thought you would ever play, that you know you are actually embracing right now? This is... fuck it. Like, if you haven't tried it right now, do it now before it gets nuked, because it's such a good spec. Like, damage aside, sure, damage is great, but in design is such a good spec that I feel like this is one of those too good to last kind of things. So give it a go right away. And last but not least, Shadow Priest. Mixed feelings with Shadow Priest as well, similar to Balance and Warlock in general. I enjoy the baseline fantasy of Shadow Priest. It kind of lost a couple of tools over the years that I personally enjoy, so I cannot really put it into A tier with the other, but I would put it into the front of B tier, since I was a fan of Mines here, and sure, I cannot live in the past and I have to get with the times, but that just means that I don't really see Shadow Priest being anywhere further than B tier until they fix that, because you still have Mind Spike, and if I ever, let's say, main Shadow Priest, I'm always afraid that they will buff Mind Spike a little bit too much and I'll be forced to play it, because I am a DPS hoe and that's my nature and I cannot change it. And because of that, I don't really would rank Shadow any higher, since right now saving grace of it is Mind Flay Insanity. It's the fucking incredible flavor of the capstones, tops off, and Void Weaver, dude, it's just so fun to play. I don't even care if Archon is better. Void Weaver, bro. Void fucking Weaver, man. That is the shit. That is what I would love to play if I would main a Shadow Priest. But until they fix the Mind Spike, the Mind Flay Insanity issue, where I just don't like playing Mind Spike at all, and maybe they can bring back Mind Tier, or at least a different way to engage with AoE damage dealing outside of Psychic Link, I would probably see Shadow Priest maybe even getting close to being B tier. But as it stands, that's where it is right now. Thank you once again, War Thunder, for sponsoring our video, and by downloading it from our links below, you will help your boys out as well. The game is free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile, and if you get it now for a limited time, and if you haven't played in the last 6 months, you will get a big bonus pack across PC and consoles containing multiple premium vehicles, an exclusive vehicle decorator, 100,000 silver lions just to start with, so go out there and smash.